Today we're continuing with God's story, which invites each of us during Lent to reflect on our own story of God and how we might share it for our everyday lives as part of our Christian witness. And it has certainly been interesting during the last few weeks to hear other people talk about this, hasn't it? Most of us are probably pretty familiar with Paul's rather dramatic conversion on the road to Damascus, which he was headed for, to persecute more Christians, or Saul as he was known prior to this, which we read of in Acts 9. And even today, when a person has a sudden change of heart, you often hear the expression, he or she saw the light. And Paul certainly did that day, didn't he? In fact, it's quite surprising how many old sayings do have their origins in the Bible. How about the one that says, that's the greatest comeback since Lazarus, which many of us might know and refers to Jesus raising his friend Lazarus from the dead. But today I want to move on a bit and reflect on another episode in Paul's rather full life. And that is what we read about in verses 12 to 16 of Acts chapter 26, which I'll read to you now. On one of these journeys I was going to Damascus with the authority and commission of the chief priests. About noon, O king, as I was on the road, I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, blazing around me with my companions. We all fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me in Aramaic, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. Then I asked, Who are you, Lord? I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, the Lord replied. Now get up and stand on your feet. I have appeared to you to appoint you as a servant and as a witness to what you have seen of me and what I will show you. Paul is appearing before King Agrippa, and as we have just heard, gives a vigorous account of his conversion. This is such an important story that the New Testament records it in several different places, and rightly so, for Paul was to play such an influential part in the spread of Christianity, not just throughout Israel, but probably more significantly throughout the known world at the time, taking Jesus' message to the Gentiles, which non-Jews are known as. So to reflect on this, it may be that our story of coming to faith has one or two dramatic moments as well, and we can identify what, to some extent anyway, with Paul's experience. As nice as it might seem, however, it would be a mistake to assume that it will be the same for everyone, as in all probability it won't be. My journey and how I became a committed Christian, which many of you are likely to have heard, could be very different from yours. But however we found God and came to faith, the most important thing is that we did. The route each of us took doesn't really matter. What is important is that we reached the destination and started a loving and fruitful relationship with him and his son Jesus that changed our lives in a way that we could probably never have imagined it might do at the beginning. Do you know, I'm always amazed about the variety of ways that people have found God in such varied places and by such different paths. Perhaps as a patient in hospital, maybe, seeking comfort and hope, or confined in a prison cell and asking for God's forgiveness for something they could have done. Alone and abandoned by others, possibly disowned by even their own family and friends. Or how about walking in the countryside then and seeing the wonders of God's creation, or maybe even watching the birth of a child, especially if it is their own. There are of course numerous ways it could have happened, and I would suggest to you that we should just be thankful that it did, as the benefits that we have received and the positive changes that it could have made to our individual lives are beyond putting a price on. It's worth reminding ourselves that it's often said that laying down your life so that someone might live is the greatest act of love that anyone can make for another. And he sacrificed himself in a way that he did at Easter. Jesus certainly did do that. And it's something that I would suggest we should take a few minutes out of our often busy lives each day to reflect on. And not just during Easter, but during the months and years to come. I want to end with a short prayer. Gracious and most merciful God, we thank you for the varied ways that you brought us to faith in you, whether dramatic or gradual. Please help us to walk alongside others who are on that same journey of faith. We ask all this in your Son's name. Amen.